it's Abby. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. Today's video we're going to do the Mid-Year Book Freakout Tag, which I'll tag the original creators below. But I'm sure you've seen these videos before. I'm also going to go through some of my reading stats at the same time and just kind of let you know what I've been reading. We'll start with just some overall stats. This year I decided to buy a spreadsheet to help me keep track of my reading, even though it's still like I'm terrible at tracking reading, but there's some different things that I really want to do well with this year. One of those being continuing my Reading Around the World challenge, getting some books off my physical TBR, and just reading more diverse books from people of different backgrounds, different genders, and really just kind of continuing my journey into reading diversely. But honestly, this morning I was frantically trying to catch up, getting the stuff into the spreadsheet. But I am loving the spreadsheet because it tracks way more metrics. I do use StoryGraph as my primary tracking method, but it only tracks so many different things. So I'll also put a link down to the spreadsheet that I bought. And yeah, I'm just super thankful to have that this year. So looking at my stats, first off, I have read 138 books so far this year. That sounds like an astronomical amount, but a lot of it is graphic novels, manga, and poetry. I don't read a lot of long fantasy or anything like that, so it isn't so much of a book like length thing. My goal for the year, I just put at 100. I don't really have a goal for the year. I don't do super well with setting those kind of constraints on myself. I want to read for enjoyment. It's a hobby that really is my only relaxing hobby. So besides the specific challenges that I set for myself, like the Reading Around the World challenge, I just want it to be fun. I have read 25,549 pages, and I have listened to 161.8 hours. I would say I've probably listened to even a little more than that, because sometimes I like co-read / listen to books. That puts me over on my page goal of 10,000, but under on my hour goal of 225 minutes. The average length of my books is 215 pages, and it takes me about 9 days to finish a book. I would say most of the manga I read in about a day or 2 days, and then the other books are what even it out to get to that 9. And my average rating is a 3.9. For me, my rating scale, 5 is like phenomenal, both very well written and entertaining, and just one I'm going to recommend to people. 4, I thoroughly enjoyed it, absolutely loved it. And 3 is like, it was a good time, enjoyed reading it, don't regret reading it, but I definitely wouldn't reread it kind of thing. So I don't really rate things 2 and 1 star unless I thought that there was something problematic or just like glaring mistakes where it hasn't been like proofread or anything. My month with the most amount of reading is a tie for March and June. I read 22 books in both of those months. As far as the most number of pages, though, I read the most in April with 4,467 pages. And the biggest audiobook listening month was February with 37 hours. I'll put up the little graph of my genres. The only thing that I wish I could kind of subcategorize in this spreadsheet is manga, because manga obviously has lots of different genres within it. I would say I pretty much read romance and fantasy manga. My next biggest category is mystery with a 5.1, and then poetry with a 4.3. And everything else is kind of pretty evenly spread out here. Trying to read more out of my like preferred genres and stuff as well. When it comes down to just the like relaxing, chilling out, that's why the manga is so much higher. Fiction makes up most of my reading, but I have read 18 nonfiction books, so it's not like I don't read nonfiction. It just makes up a much smaller percentage. So for print, I had 92 books read, 7 that I was doing 2 formats, 16 were audiobooks, and 23 were digital. I have bought a lot of my stuff this year because I am working at a bookstore and I get a really good discount. But I have been able to get 25 books off my physical TBR, and I have still borrowed 20 of the books that I read and got 5 off of NetGalley as e-reads there. Also, my husband and I are subscribed to Shonen Jump, so he uses that more than me. He doesn't read a lot of physical manga, but I read 13 off of that. And then Spotify has their new audiobook program, so I've read 3 books where I didn't pay any extra because I already had Spotify. 93 of my books were between 2020 and 2024. That I mostly read things that are newly coming out. 36 are from 2010 to 2019. And then I have my Jane Austen series that I'm working on. So I've read 3 from 1800 to 1849. And then just some of my other books. I've read 2 from 1970 to 1989, 1 from 1990 to 1999, and 2 from 2000 to 2009. My biggest category is YA. Again, that's skewed because of the manga. I have also read quite a few adult books, and then middle grade and new adult are both fairly low. And I haven't read any children's books this year. I would like to change that in the second half of the year. Now we're getting to some of the ones that I really care about my stats for. So queer rep this year, I have done a better job. Still, you can see most of it is no representation. So I have checked off each of the categories. I would like to continue to read more within these categories and get some more diverse perspectives that way. But it's better than the last year. For author nationality, Japanese is the primary one because of the manga, but American is second. This year I have read books from Argentina, Australia, England, Canada, Germany, Ireland, and Ecuador, as well as Palestine, Scotland, Chile, Colombia, Indonesia. That's it. And then for disability rep, I have added some more mental health rep. I would say that I probably under report on the mental health aspects of my books. Chronic illness, hearing impairment, vision impairment, and physical disability have also been represented. Again, I want to try to make these categories larger in the rest of the year. And then author gender, I have been reading primarily by women, which is a choice and is actually fairly hard to do when you're reading so much manga, but there are so many female mangaka that are coming up and really trying to work to head towards that direction. And then I've read some non-binary, genderqueer, or unknown sexuality authors as well. Primary author race and ethnicity is Asian, with white being the second, then Black, then Hispanic, then Asian, or South Asian rather, and then kind of tied between Indigenous, Afro-Latine, and biracial. I have primarily been reading sequels, again because of the manga. Anything I read that's not really a manga, though, for the most part, is a standalone. You can see my publishers are very widely. I've only done a few rereads. That's not something that I do a bunch. The Jane Austen books are rereads, and the poetry books are rereads for the most part. Most of the authors aren't new to me. but I have read like 50 new authors, which is, again, something I wanted to work on. And for my Reading Around the World challenge, I have been reading 1 to 2 books a month for that, and I finally finished reading a book from every province and territory in Canada, and that will be coming up, a video on that will be coming up soon. And then I have switched down to try to finish off South America because I'd read from, I think, 6 of the countries previously, and so I'd like to finish that up for the end of this year. Okay, that's a lot of information, a lot of stats. You can pause to see stats, or you can also ask me questions in the comments below, but let's get into the Mid-Year Freakout Tag. So, the first prompt is, favorite book this year? I absolutely hate picking a favorite book, but I'm gonna go with the Decagon House Murders because I'd never read this author before. I really enjoyed this mystery, and it kind of follows an Agatha Christie's And Then There Was None because it takes place on an island and follows a group of people who are being murdered. But this book also has dual timelines or perspectives where we're following the people on the island and we're also following the people on the mainland who are trying to figure out what's happening and unravel it as it goes. So it'll be like day 1 on the island, day 1 on the mainland. And I have a whole video I'm working on. I have all my little notes here where I tried to solve this. I did not get as close as I did with the Hanjin murders, but my husband got very close to picking the answer, and I was like, I think you should have been the one that was doing the challenge. But anyway, I just got swept up in it. I have way less notes as it goes on because I was just like needing to know what was going to happen, and it was just really, really good. The second prompt is the best sequel that you've read this year, and I picked The Good, the Bad, and the Aunties because I really, really loved Dial A for Aunties and thoroughly enjoyed, I think it's 4 Aunties and a Wedding. This one wasn't as good as the 2 previous installments, but it is the last one of the series, and I really appreciate when authors know when to kind of end a series. And it's just a really good conclusion to the saga, and still had me laughing out loud, really enjoying the characters, but I'm glad that it has come to an end, and that it goes out on a high note. Like, we're not gonna drag the series and the characters along for too long, and I appreciate that. The next question is a new favorite author, and that's going to be Anashin, who wrote Waiting for Spring and How I Met My Soulmate, and I have not finished either of these series. This one's still currently coming out in English, and this one I read in one day and then immediately ordered the second one, but they're not as easy to come across. Like, they've started to get them back out there because this one has come out, but they're a little harder to track down. This author does a really good job of writing just like a make you like squee kind of romance where it's so cute, so adorable. The guys are just really likable, all of them. Like, not when you run into like a love triangle and stuff, usually you're like, well, this guy's the obvious choice because this other guy sucks. No, all of the guys in the story are likable, and the main character, you're rooting for her in both of these, and just, I do have my favorites, but it is one of those things where all the characters are really well written, and I'm enjoying her writing. A new release that I want to read but I haven't yet is The Love Report Volume 2. I read the first one this year, and it is absolutely adorable. It's about 2 best friends who are like interviewing people in their school about what it means to be in love, because one girl has a crush on this guy and is just kind of like obsessed with that, and the other girl is like used to relationships lasting just like a short amount of time and then kind of moving on. Also, her parents are getting a divorce, and so she's kind of doesn't believe true love exists, and you meet this whole host of other characters, and it's just really cute and wholesome, and I wish that I had something to read like that when I was in middle school. It is a middle grade graphic novel, I don't think I mentioned that, but it's very cute and very positive in that, like, oh, well, you have to love yourself, and sometimes people spread rumors about you or date you for the wrong reasons, or just all these like different things that could happen, and it is just kind of showing people that they're not alone. Just a really, really cute story, so I need to read the second one, which came out this year. The most disappointing book this year was one that I did read off my shelves. I had been kind of putting it off, but it's The Appeal. This book is just way too long. I read The Christmas Appeal, or listened to it as an audiobook at Christmas time, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna love The Appeal. It'll be great. The whole story is told through emails and text messages and just kind of this multimedia telling. But no one was murdered until like 300 pages into this 400 something page book. The pacing was super weird, and I just like wanted it to be over. This is one that I read both as a physical and an audiobook, and I don't know. The other one was a novella, the Christmas one, and that felt like a much better length. This one could never have been that short just because of the amount of stuff that happened, but it didn't need to be as long as it was, and so this was a disappointment for me. My most anticipated read for the second half of this year is Death at Morning House by Maureen Johnson. I absolutely love the Truly Devious series. I'm also a little bit upset that we're getting this standalone book and not a follow-up to where she left the Truly Devious series, because I need to know what happens. But it's a YA mystery which follows a girl who has been sent to an island after some things kind of got out of hand, and now she's going to be a tour guide on that island, but then people start dying. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I like the way that Maureen Johnson writes her mysteries, and they're just a lot of fun. But again, I would have rather had the next book in the Truly Devious series. The most surprising book for me this year was Cultish, The Language of Fanaticism. I had read Word Slut by Amanda Montell and didn't particularly enjoy it, just because I wanted so much more out of the commentary and the linguistics of it, and this delivered on that, although it's obviously a different topic. But this goes through the language of cults and how, there's that fine line of something becoming like a true cult, or like death cult, like a very problematic cult, and something like people being obsessed with a social media personality, or being involved in something like CrossFit, or multi-level marketing, things like that. And it just is a very enjoyable read, in that I just like learned a lot. The topic's not very enjoyable, but I listened to this as an audiobook and then immediately had to buy it so I can go back through and tab it, because it was just very, very informative, and it immediately sent me out to read her new book, The Age of Magical Overthinking, and I really enjoyed that book as well, but I would say this is the strongest of the three. New fictional crush. I don't super like crush on characters, but I would say every character in my love mix-up. So Aoki, the main character, Hashimoto, the girl that he originally has a crush on, Ida, the guy that he thinks Hashimoto has a crush on and then he eventually has a crush on, and Ada, who's not on this cover, are just so cute. I just want to protect them and help them and just wish all the best for the two couples. This is a completed series, and I have not finished reading it because I don't want it to end. So I keep putting off finishing it because I don't want to finish it. But yeah, I don't want it to end. I don't want to finish it. And so I would say this They're my little crush. Favorite character. My favorite character is Yuki from Sign of Affection. She is just so cute and wholesome, and I just want to love life as much as she does and find so much joy in all the little things, and watching her fall in love but also just come to be more confident in herself is just absolutely adorable, and she is my new favorite character. A book that made me cry is actually the first book that I read this year, and that is Why Fathers Cry at Night by Kwame Alexander. This is a poetry, memoir, recipe, just a kind of multi-genre book where he talks about his life as a father, as a husband, an ex-husband, a lover, a child to a father. Just, he has a very complex relationship with his kids, and this just had all the feels, and I absolutely love this book. One that you should check out for sure. A book that made me happy is Funny Story by Emily Henry. I devoured this in like 2 sittings. It's just good old fun. Like, we have 2 characters. One's a librarian, one works at a winery, and they have both been dumped by their exes, who become engaged. So she was engaged to this guy, he was dating this girl, they were best friends, and now they become engaged to each other. And because she no longer has anywhere to live, she moves in with him, and it was just really good. I think that it is probably my favorite of the Emily Henry books, and I am not a Emily Henry stan, and that I do not like all of her books. I particularly didn't like Book Lovers, which I know is a little bit of a, there's people who definitely come for me for that one, but I feel like Happy Place and now Funny Story, I feel like she's getting progressively better at writing her romances, and I just really, really enjoyed it. For best adaptation, I'm gonna go with an anime, which is Oshinoko. I don't usually have HDive, but I needed to get it so I could watch this show. It's just, there's nothing I can really do to explain it. I've not been able to explain what Oshinoko is. It's not something you read quickly. In fact, it takes me a really long time to read any of the manga, because it's just covering so many different topics, but then also just it's a mystery, it's a romance, it's about fame, it's about culture, it's about social media. It's just, there's a lot going on, but I think that they're doing a really good job with the anime. And then for not an anime, but on a similar thing, I thought the live action One Piece was really, really good, and my brother and sister-in-law would disagree as true One Piece anime fans, but my husband, who's reading the manga right now, and I've read the first 3 volumes of the manga, I just thought it was really accessible and fun, and I'm excited to see what they do in the 2nd season. And just, I don't know, I feel like it's a good way to get into One Piece that doesn't feel overwhelming, because the amount of manga and the amount of anime episodes is absolutely ridiculous. So to be able to just jump in and start somewhere and have it be accessible and fun, I've been recommending it to a lot of people. It's just a good time. The most beautiful one that I read is Beyond the Clouds. This Inched Out Witch Hat Atelier, just because it's new to me. I would say both of those, if you're looking for something that is beautiful illustrations, that's going to be it. These are just so cute and artistic. This one is like a steampunk world. Witch Hat Atelier is very much a fantasy world, but the panels, the drawings, just everything about this is just absolutely cute and just beautiful. And then the last thing is a book that I need to finish this year, and that's going to be The City We Became and the World We Make. I tried I've tried like 4 times to start this book and I just never feel like I'm in the right headspace for it, but I need to read them. I really, really love the 5th season, and I know that I will love these. I just feel like I can't read them. Let me know if you've had any trouble with that, where you're just like, this is something I know I will like, but I just can't right now. But it has to happen this year. They've been on my shelf for like 2 or 3 years now, and I need to read them. I started a buddy read on Storygraph, and I think one of the people finished, maybe 2 of the people, and the rest of us didn't, and I feel so bad. I just need to read it. But yeah, that's that. So anyway, that is my mid-year freakout tag / my stats for the year. Let me know what your favorite book has been so far this year, and also let me know if you've read any of the books or if you disagree with any of my takes. But I'm gonna leave it there, and I'll see you in the next video.